Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. And hi from Jane.
Thank you. I can speak for myself. Hello everybody.
And today we're going to do a general questions and answers on psychic stuff today. But I thought we could kick off with, have you been here before? Obviously some of you have, but have you been here before in the idea of deja vu? I think that would be a nice topic to start with. So if you've had, those of you that are joining us, if you've had, hi there, Lisa. If you've had any experiences of deja vu, which means literally seen before.
Well, like you walk into a building and it might be an old church, you think, I've done this before. And then you might meet somebody in that building, you think, I know exactly what they're going to come out with, what words, and they do. Does that happen to you?
Oh, hi, Barley. That's Barley from
lovely.
the...
Millie.
Yeah, Barley Astrology. It's Millie. Yeah, but it's from the last week when we did the Vedic astrology.
Yeah, that was
fantastic.
so interesting.
Yeah, so deja vu, seen before. And what does that imply, you see? Because that can imply all sorts of ideas about the nature of existence, of reality. And when it happens, and I'd like to just bring in the idea of coincidences too with this, because some of you might have had strange coincidences happen to you. Strange things sometimes happen, don't they? Very strange things happen when you get that sense of something, I've done this before, you know, and it comes completely out of the blue, doesn't it?
It's like a movie, going on a movie set, and it's like flashbacks, I call it, and you get feelings and sensations that you experience so many things.
We're getting some familiar names coming up. Sheila, I recognise your name from before as well. Thank you for joining us, guys. And
Tanya.
Don't forget to ask your questions, because it's the questions that fuel this and make it interesting for us all.
Davina, hello Davina. So
this idea of deja vu, one of the scientific explanations, which I don't think explains it completely, but is a thought, is that the brain somehow has trouble processing what it thinks is a short-term memory, but turns it into a long-term memory. So it kind of uses short-term memory patterns in the brain to process long-term memory. So some psychologists have said, well, is this mix-up between short-term and long-term memory, and it makes you think that something has happened before because you're remembering it through your long-term memory rather than a short-term memory. But you know, there's no proof of that. There's no evidence to show that, as far as I'm aware. And I think when we do get these strange feelings of having been here before, surely there's something more behind that, isn't there? Have any of you actually had that experience? And if so, just give us a couple of lines about what you think about it and what happened.
I can remember once going into Bewley, and I went into Bewley.
You better speak up a bit, Jane.
I went into Bewley Church, and I felt King John. I felt, I don't want to put my foot over this threshold. Something bad has happened here. And I didn't quite know the history of that building. And as I went round the corner, it told the history of that King John and that. And I had a sensation and a feeling that I didn't like.
Do you think that is a past life memory or picking up the vibrations of a place?
I think it was, for me, a vibration, and it was like a flash that I saw across my mind, what happened, very visual.
As flash of something that had happened before, but not necessarily something that had happened to you before.
No.
Because sometimes these feelings of deja vu come, don't they, when you have this, it's a very personal feeling, like you've been through it before, you know, like you might have dreamed it, or you might have had, it feels like a memory, or it feels like something has happened in your life, or that you've lived it over again, like strange.
Yeah, I think like a past life. I've always, and you're the same, going upstairs, walking upstairs. I don't like people walking behind me, so I'm going upstairs because I have a sensation that someone's shot arrows in my back.
And you think that's like, we talked about that before, it's like a past life memory. Davina there was just saying that she thinks it's a past life memory.
Yeah,
and
definitely, definitely.
It could be. Or another idea. There was a philosopher called Nietzsche, who wrote I've forgotten the name of his book now. Thus Spake Zarathustra, and various others. And he believed in this idea that there's eternal recurrence. Now, this was an idea that was bantered around a lot in the 1930s. I'm going to just turn the volume down on this for a second. Bantered around a lot in philosophy as an idea that we've lived this life, right from birth to death. And then when we die, we start all over again, except things are slightly different. This idea, it recurs and recurs, and you just keep living the same sequence over and over again, until you get to a point where you're living that sequence in a totally enlightened state. That's a pretty bizarre idea, but that's called eternal recurrence. People like Gurdjieff were interested in that, and quite a lot of philosophers in their time. So someone said there they'd experienced a...
Yes, it's lady here, is it? Winnie. Is it Winnie?
Yeah, like reliving a dream.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It is. It's sort of very lucid and that, and you sense and you feel. And because perhaps if we got clairsentience or clairaudience, you're picking up that vibration of that building, or you're putting your hand on a stone, and then you have flashbacks.
It does have a feeling of like a dream-like quality when it happens, doesn't it? Because it catches you unaware. It has a certain surrealism to it. And and then Patrice is saying they're like a multiverse. So that's going back to my idea, possibly, or not my idea, but the idea of eternal recurrence. Because if there was a multiverse, Patrice has kind of said, you've only got a couple of lines to say it in, I'm sure you've got much more ideas than that. But if there was a multiverse, that is some people think, and science seems to think, that there are like multiple universes, one on top of each other. And there could be no limit to those universes. And that we, in fact, the whole idea of time could be illusionary, because all we're doing is moving from one universe to another, to another, to another. And consciousness is us leaping from one universe to another to create this idea of movement and time. And that there are multiple universes with multiple things all happening.
Perhaps the planet is on consciousness.
So everything, it's this idea that everything is conscious, and conscious is moving all the time through some vast universe. An infinite number of things can now happen an infinite number of times in an infinite number of ways. It was played upon, wasn't it, by that a radio program that they called the with what's his name, Ford, and that in it, and the what they called it. Oh, I forgot. My God, in one universe, I've probably got a better memory. I've forgotten the name of it now.
That's no good, is it?
Oh God,
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Where 42 is the answer to everything. Oh, that's the only bit I can remember of it. Anyway, that we could be living in all. Hi there, Jason. So, guys, you can ask any questions you like. We're just starting off, just having a sort of general banter about the idea of déjà vu. The idea, what is it? Is it something that we've lived before?
Hi,
this
Laura.
Idea of multiverses?
Oh, lovely.
Is it something to do with reincarnation? And we're asking you to share your ideas. And if you've got any questions about any topics whatsoever about the psychic world, please do put them up, and we'll see what we can answer some of them.
Yeah, because the whole planet's on vibration, and the natural Earth is on vibration and consciousness. So our dreams and our consciousness at night, where do they come from?
Yeah, someone's just saying there, when we sleep, do we wake up in a different universe every day?
I mean, think Craig does.
Yeah, it
definitely
feels like it sometimes.
He came from Mars.
And sometimes dreams, I mean, they add such a strange... I mean, recently, there's a video going up soon about where we're talking about dreams and things when we're at one of our picnics, and lockdown picnics. And sometimes dreams are so vivid and real, aren't they? It makes you question the whole nature of the universe,
Well, I'd like to say, do men dream in black and white and women in colour? That would be a good one for people to answer that.
Well, no, I think everybody dreams in both. But some of these ideas, particularly the ideas that are floating around the internet at the moment, a lot of them come from that science fiction writer, Philip K. Dick. Unfortunate name. But he had some pretty bizarre ideas. He was the guy. I mean, The Matrix wasn't written by him, but it was based upon his ideas. Total Recall, the movie, was based on his book, When Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, I think it was, if I got them the right way round. Blade Runner, with all the ideas in there, reptilians and things like that. all his
You
ideas.
sure you're not talking about Shaun and the Sheep?
Yeah, Shaun the Sheep. Well, yeah, Dream of Electric Sheep. And then the one that's on at the moment, about on Netflix. I don't know what they've called it. The one about when the Nazi Germany wins the war. I've got it up there somewhere. I've read it a few times. I actually forgot the title.
I should start reading it again.
Yeah, I think I
know the
but
title.
a lot of the and all the one with all the precogs and things like that. All these a lot of these stories all come from this mind of Philip K. Dick. I mean, and he used to take LSD all the time. That's where he's got his ideas from. But they've become sort of mainstream, you know. And this idea of multiverses, multi-universes, but you know, a lot of people now kind of have a sort of a paranoia about the world, like we're all being controlled, you know, because one of the themes in all those science fictions, Through a Scanner Darkly was a particularly scary movie. Well, they made a movie out of it. It wasn't very good, but it was a particularly scary sort of movie where it had a sort of an addictive form of LSD. And the first thing that the person used to do when they took the drug is forget that they'd taken the drug. I think it was that in that story. And then they get all this weird world of everything being observed and scanned and gradually rotting your brain, basically.
Right.
So this whole nightmare, I've noticed it's rife in things like David Icke. It's rife in things like 5G and all the secret societies. It's rife in this idea of secret societies and like.
Right, we're going to talk about deja
Illuminati.
Deja vu, Craig, because you're going off the subject a bit.
So what if deja vu is created by other people or beings that time travel and change something in the timeline so that our consciousness was expecting is slightly different and thus creating the effect? So what you're saying, what have you got it? This is Domenico trying to throw us a sideways one. Yeah, what you're saying, I think, Domenico, is if perhaps we're already sort of one step ahead of ourselves, so we're kind of always expecting the next situation. Illusion. I mean, like the subconscious mind, they reckon, there's some people say we have no free will because the subconscious mind is always creating the illusion of free will, and that perhaps deja vu happens when something breaks down in the system and what we were expecting to happen doesn't happen. You know, something weird happens.
We've already lived it, so it's bringing forward to our consciousness, because deja vu is when you've experienced that before, and that feeling of consciousness is right there in front of you.
Yeah, I think the whole thing ties. I mean, we'll take quite a deep conversation on this, really, but some of these ideas of what is the nature of time, what is the nature of consciousness, does time fly in a straight line? I mean, if you think about, you know, if we think about what is deja vu, it's a twist in time of some sort, isn't it? So why has that happened? Therefore, what is time? Because we are always thinking of time as always beginning, middle, and end. But it's a complete illusion when you think about it. Everything at this moment, what I just said a moment ago is gone. Okay, it's been recorded, but it's gone. And what's gonna happen next hasn't happened. The only thing that is real is now, and even the now present is divided into tiny little pieces. How close can you get to the very minute of now, the moment of now? It's a strange thing when you really look at time, and that's why I think maybe deja vu is something about our perception and understanding of our place in the world in connection with time. So maybe it has something to do with psychology, or maybe it has something more to do with this place of the spirit within the world.
Well, time is nothing, is it? Because if you talk about the other side, time, they've got plenty of time here. Time here goes quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah. The ancient Greeks thought it was either a circle or a spiral, a gyre, as W.B. Yeats called it, like a spiral, like the DNA, that we move up through an ever ascending spiral, and that's what the universe is. That's why things seem to repeat.
Well, it's like the Sikh. Everything is an illusion.
Yeah, lots of people say the world's an illusion, Maya, as they call it in the East. And sometimes it feels also that sometimes when you look at time, and again, it's this deja vu idea, it feels sometimes in your own life that you go through repeats. You know, it's like you're back where you were, like 20 years ago, and the same sequence of events seems to unfold, but this time in a different form and different people and different characters. But it's like you go through a sort of a circle or a sequence or a spiral of events, and then years later, those whole sequence seems to repeat again.
It's lessons,
you know, but the same lessons seem to come back through a whole series of events. This is what's so strange about time, isn't it? Because we've always got this complete cycle of strange repeats of almost the same people with the same names, but it's like the same play being played again, but with different actors.
We're all passing through paying ground rent one way or another while we're here, aren't we?
Yeah. So let's have some more questions from me. We don't want to stay on this subject all day, because I'll be going deeper and deeper into crazy ideas. Why are there so many different views regarding reincarnation and spiritualism?
Well, it depends on the medium, doesn't it? You've got to have proof of reincarnation, haven't you? That's where the Nadi oracle can tell you and give you proof.
In spiritualism, there was a big divide early on between spiritualism, which formed into the sort of the movement in America and in England, and in France there was Kardec, who was more interested in spiritism, which was kind of two different things. And the big difference between spiritualism and spiritism, which also spread into Brazil and places like that, is that spiritism believed in reincarnation. Spiritualism was kind of had quite a strong Christian group of people in it. They were kind of wayward Christians moving into spiritualism. So they were still bringing forward their Christian ideas. And for them, they were kind of thinking, no, reincarnation is not part of spiritualism, therefore I can't accept that. So they were putting beliefs onto spiritualism. So so I think there was a lot of prejudice against reincarnation at the beginning. And then the arguments that a lot of spiritualists put against it is said there's no proof about life after death, about reincarnation. They said there's proof of life after death, but no proof of reincarnation. Well, I think that's a pretty limited view, because there's lots of proof in my book about reincarnation. The Bloxham tapes, just one example. If you look up the Bloxham tapes on the BBC's series they did those years ago, I mean, fantastic proof. So I think it's just prejudice, personally. I mean, there was a sign at Camberley Spiritualist Church one day, had a sign in the medium's room saying, please do not talk about reincarnation when on the platform. We've been told by the head office not to do that.
Years ago, they used to say, you mustn't read tarot cards in spiritualism. That's not mediumship.
Well, that's
mediumship
true.
Is coming through from like the great divine and that, and your spirit guides, your helpers, your doorkeepers, whatever you want to call them, and you get evidential proof. So tarot cards there, they I remember when we went to Stansted, they were totally against tarot cards.
Yeah, well, they were against you talking about reincarnation, just going back to the person's question. And so every time I went to that particular church, I would always, if I gave a talk, because sometimes we usually just do demos, always talk about reincarnation. Purposely, because whether I wanted to or not, because I don't like the idea of saying this is, you see, the whole thing with spiritualism, what's good about it is it doesn't have a doctrine. It doesn't say you've got to believe this because it's written in this book, you know, or you've got to believe this because this man said so. It's kind of a much more of a find out for yourself religion, isn't it? So that's what I liked about it when we were involved with it a lot.
But also there's the Nadi oracle that can tell you what you were in a past life. They've got all those leaves.
Yeah, that's where I got my proof, through the Nadis, if you've read my books. Can you gain psychic abilities? Can you gain psychic abilities?
Well, you'd have to sit in a circle, wouldn't they, and develop. They always put physics instead of psychic.
I think with psychic abilities, I think you have to kind of be born with it.
Absolutely.
But you might not even know you've got it. And that's the thing. So when you sit in a spiritual circle of some sort, whether it be in spiritualism or whether it be elsewhere, it's not until you start practicing that you find you've got it or not. You don't realize you've got it or not.
And most children, especially girls, and boys, when they go through puberty, the age of 13, then they suddenly develop psychic things, suddenly happen to them, don't they?
Yeah, most people, I think, have got psychic abilities of some sort or another. All of us have it up to a point. Most people, it's kind of there way in the background. But I don't think you can, although I've trained lots of people to develop their psychic abilities, I couldn't say I could train absolutely everybody, because it's not like learning something like, you know, a mathematical formula or horse riding or anything. You know, you have to have the ability. You have to also learn to think in a completely different way with it as well, actually, because you have to think more intuitively and less rationally. But that doesn't mean to say at the same time, it doesn't mean to say you just go off with the fairies and say anything that comes along. You've got to get this balance between being sensible and being intuitive. And that's quite a fine line, actually, as I and many others people prove sometimes. There was another.
What's this? Catherine Smith, Craig and Jane, was your mediumship easy before you were famous or sane? Well, I knew, I don't know about Craig, but I knew I was different when I was a child. I didn't know at that point how different, because I used to see auras around people's etheric bodies, and I never wanted it to be, just to frighten you a little bit. All I wanted to be was to be a nurse, and but I still had a gift, and I've used that many years. I suppose, how long have I been? 50 years I've been doing it, and I suppose the last 20 years, and I wasn't really interested in the beginning, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't want to be a medium. No, I was pulled into it more or less. I mean, they pulled, because I was good in circle, they dragged me onto the platform in spiritualism, and I ended up doing it all the time. And then I found I really loved it, and I thought, God, this is such an amazing thing. How I can't not do this, you know. And it got deeper and deeper until I just, you know, it took me over really, because I felt I couldn't do anything else, because it's just such a, I mean, you say, is it better before then or now? But every time, sometimes I might have a week where I'm doing readings for people, and I think, oh God, they're all kind of, I thought they're all a bit ordinary readings, I'm thinking. And then every now and again, I'm doing readings where I'm sort of, every single fact is there, particularly if people want mediumship. Everything, names and addresses and telephone numbers and incredible stuff comes through. And I think, wow, you know, and it's like it proves it to us and says to you, look what you're capable of. You know, and I think for everybody that's developing mediumship, you'll get those times where it feels a bit sluggish, and then you'll get other times when you think, pow, how did that ever come through? And I think the spirit world inspire you all the time, but particularly when you're starting, I think they occasionally give you moments of absolute brilliance that will just to encourage you on, really.
Well, it's like when you first start, you're like an apprentice, really, and then you've got to keep be devotional, and you've got to be sincere if you're a medium, and you've got to have love in your heart to help others, because people that have lost people is a horrendous thing to go through. I mean, today I was looking at photographs of a famous boxer, Les Stevenson, who was a Romany or a traveller, such a lovely man, a gentleman, and he came to me for a reading. He actually came to watch me at Camberley Spirituals Church. He looked a bit like Elvis Presley. And I just heard a few weeks ago through some other Romanies that he passed into the spirit world. He got coronavirus. And I was quite sad, because he was such a lovely man. He actually came to me, he had lost his wife that had a brain hemorrhage and that. And it seems so sad when people go, but it helped him connecting with his wife. Well, he came to me.
I mean, people come to us for lots of reasons. They come to us for predictions. They come to us for psychic guidance about their life. They want to know about job changes and love and all the rest of it.
They're quite intelligent people.
Yeah, from all levels, and they're all valid things. I mean, I've been to see mediums for exactly the same reasons. But it's when you get something where you can really transform someone's life in ways that nobody else can do. When the spirit gives you such proof and evidence to help lift enormous grief off people sometimes. And it's not a magic wand. It don't cure it forever, but it lifts it for a while, and it helps them to understand and give them not just the belief that there's another world, but the absolute knowledge that there's another world. I mean, when you see those things, you have to throw everything else in your life aside and say, if I've got this gift, I have to use that above everything else, because that's the most important thing I can possibly do in this life. You know, Jane was a qualified nurse. I was running an advertising agency. All those things pale in significance to the power of mediumship and what it can do in a person's life.
And there's many good mediums that are around helping people.
Yeah. Do all psychics evolve into mediums?
Not necessary.
No, not all, but a psychic can develop into a medium. I suppose, first of all, we better explain what the difference is.
Well, a psychic is somebody that picks things up. They're not necessarily, I would say, a medium, clairsentience or clairvoyant or...
well, not to undervalue psychic, because
no, we're not.
Yeah.
But a psychic is somebody who's natural, and they get feelings. They can walk into a room, they can sense things. It's a natural ability.
So psychic might have lots of gifts, like the gift of prophecy, be able to see the future. A psychic might be able to pick up on a person's feelings, might be able to pick on a person's health conditions, all those sort of things.
They're what I call sensitives.
So they're kind of in tune with you, like an sixth sense, right?
Yeah, sensitives.
But then a medium, and a psychic will also pick up from you telepathically. So they'll pick your thoughts up and they get some information about those thoughts. They might give an opinion about what they've seen. They might be able to see the bigger picture. Fantastic, powerful gift. And then a medium is somebody that connects a stage further and can sense the spirit world, sense, hear, see, feel the spirit world. That's why when people start putting tarot cards out and saying they're talking to the spirit world, that's not even psychic. That's just codswallop. And you get it all over Facebook, for example, people putting up tarot cards and angel cards and talking as if they're talking to the spirit world. And that's not the case. That's the lowest level is reading cards. The next level is psychic ability, and then there's mediumship. But some psychics can develop into mediums, but mediums already have the psychic gift in the first place. Psychics is psychic plus mediumship. It always has to be. Can tarot cards be used to connect to psychic abilities?
Well, they're just symbolisms, aren't they, tarot cards?
Well, tarot cards just used on their own are tarot cards and interpretive skill. But they can also be a good tool to help you to develop your psychic abilities.
Or if people lay four piles of tarot cards and you get somebody to put their hand, what I call psychometry, you can pick up off the tarot cards without turning over to see the symbolism on there. So that's psychic.
Yeah, I sometimes use tarot cards face down with people, give the reading and then turn the cards over, saying this card means so-and-so, and then afterwards you turn it over and there's the card explaining what they had done, exactly what you've talked about, you know, like a bad thing like the Tower card or something like that, to turn over after you've already described those type of things. So they're tools. Tarot cards in their own right are just tarot cards. They're interpretive skill, a bit like astrology is just an interpretive skill. But then sometimes an astrologer, for example, might also have psychic skills, and their astrology takes on a whole different level. And so too, a tarot reader might just be able to understand the cards. But then if they've got the psychic gift, it takes on a whole new dimension.
It's same like a crystal ball. You've got to have a gift, because if I use a crystal ball, it might suddenly cloud it over and I see pictures and images. And that's what I call transference from my mind onto the crystal ball. So you've got to have a gift to start with.
I think it's really important that people that are getting readings are a bit more, how can I say, discerning. Just because someone says, I'm a psychic, doesn't mean they are a psychic. They might genuinely think they're a psychic, but you have to see, are they picking things up that they couldn't possibly know? Okay, not generalities, not sort of, oh, you're a very nice person, aren't you? You're a very nice person. Oh, yes, I am a nice person, aren't I? You've got a very good sense of humor, haven't you? Yeah, I have, because everybody thinks that, you know, generalities that could fit what the skeptics call cold reading. And there is such a thing. And some people do it unconsciously. But you've got to look carefully. And then sometimes if someone's giving you a reading, they start saying things you haven't told them, it's not on the internet,
mind blowers,
because people look things up on the internet and Facebook, which are horrific, but they know you're saying things that nobody could possibly know. Then you've got a decent psychical medium working for you, and particularly with mediumship, because the person doesn't even know who's on the spirit side for you. So before you've seen them. So it's much more evidential. So very important to give what I call evidence. Is sexual energy spiritual?
Well, what have we got here?
Right, Dylan. Boot him, Domenico.
Sexual energy spiritual.
Yes,
well, I've never heard that one.
No,
is
it
he
is.
talking about tantra?
Well, it's all energy, because sexual energy is life force. Life force is in the body. Life force in its lowest state is the sexual form. In the power form, it's in the ambition form. As it moves up the spine, it becomes more and more refined and more spiritual. All of it is equally important, because you can't have the top of a tower without having the bottom of a tower. It all stands as one unit. So
put
it's
that in writing, Craig Hamilton Parker.
So basically, sexual energy is raw energy, unrefined, non-spiritual energy initially, but it's all still part of the pranic life force. And that pranic life force in a person's life will be transformed, and it will change and become creative energy, and then become spiritual energy. So that's what the spine's all about. That's what the chakras are all about. And that's what meditation and the rest of it's all about transforming the lower energy, the transforming, like the alchemists call the lead, into the gold. And both are important. You know, one cannot exist without the other. Is it ever scary to channel a spirit?
No, not if you're doing it properly. It's not scary. I mean, too many people watch these horror films, don't they? Or they get frightened of the unknown or the supernatural world because they think it's going to harm them. But if you've got a spirit that's coming through and you're protected by your doorkeepers, or that most important, and you've got to have confidence, as I say, be sincere and know how to handle yourself, so you have no fear.
But you do get what some people would probably think of as scary. I mean, certainly when we've had spirits come through, I've had people through quite often that have been murdered. Some horrific murders sometimes too, which I've described to people. Heads cut off in one case, I remember, and then all sorts of brutal things that come through, and also brutal deaths. I mean, often things come through.
Yes,
like
but they
that.
come through because they want justice.
But they come through in a protected form.
Yeah.
You see, we don't have some scary thing. It's almost like just matter of fact. You know, that's no more different given those facts than it is given facts that your grandmother loves you. You know, we're just the channel for it. And so your emotions are very are not tied up in the mediumship in a way. It's almost kind of matter of fact, even though very emotional material might be coming through for the person sat there. We are almost like an observer of it, I find anyway, with my work, when we're giving information. So it doesn't scare me. No. Is it common in mediumship for spirit to connect more at night when you're sleepy?
Well, some people do, because you're in a resting period. It depends, doesn't it? Because if the spirit would want to get through to you or to any particular vehicle, they will find a way to get through to someone.
I think when I first started developing my mediumship, because you're kind of very, I mean, I think when I first developed, I could sometimes be a bit jumpy about the idea, you know, but you find yourself developing as a medium full time properly, and it's really coming in deep for you, and you've been sitting in circle for some years, and you can feel spirit come very close to you. When I was very tired sometimes, I used to think, oh God, you know, what if I couldn't control this, or what if something bad came through? Because obviously it's in the back of your mind.
You tell it to go away, don't
but
you?
Your experience shows you, as you learn to live with it, that, you know, nothing's ever going to hurt you. You know, and you know that in your logical mind, and you just teach your unconscious mind the same thing.
Most important, you have non-attachment to it. That's the most important thing. If you're frightened of anything, you ask it to go and have non-attachment. I think with all spiritual work, you've got to have a certain quality of fearlessness, actually. That's what I said. Complete and fearlessness comes in a way with surrender, actually. You're going to surrender to me, Craig. It comes through acceptance, you know, it comes through... being prepared to die for what you do, even, you know. I mean, once you've accepted the idea of death, once you've accepted the idea that your own death,
then what can possibly frighten you in this world? You know, even pain. You still know, you know, if you can accept the big things like that. And I think with mediumship, you are confronted with the whole concept of death, because obviously you have to think about your own death as well, and the death of everybody you know, and the death of everything you own, because, you know, you realize that just a minute, I'm not going to be taking any of this with me, you know. But you know there's another world. But once you get to that point, I think fear does begin to evaporate, and you do get closer to a state of fearlessness. And I don't think mediums that get jumpy, I wouldn't trust for a minute, because I'd say, well, they're obviously not developed. They're obviously at an early stage of development.
Natalie, cool.
Natalie, thanks, Natalie. Do psychic readings predict our future, therefore giving us no control of an outcome? Or is it ultimately our thoughts and belief that shape our future outcomes?
Good question.
I could answer that, but I'll let you go.
No, you answer it then. If you said you can answer it, do it.
Well, this is all about the question of free will, isn't it, really, Natalie? Isn't it? What we're talking about here is, you know, is the future set? Because if a psychic can see, so psychics, so here's a good example. A Nadi went to see the Nadi oracles. Now, the India, they really quite strongly believe in that there's destiny. There's nothing you can do about certain things. And so the Nadi oracle throws up to somebody who I took for a consultation that they would have a dangerous car accident, right? And they would be put in hospital and hospitalized. Now, that's not a very nice reading, but that's what the sort of thing that comes through from these Nadis. That's why I'm very wary for people to approach them without the right guidance. So they were told this, right? And then they do some remedies to try to nullify that. And what happened in that person's thing, they were talking to their friend in the car and saying, I had a terrible thing. They were sat in the car in stationary traffic. An awful thing in the Nadis that said I would have a car accident, but I've done all the remedies for it. And just as she was saying that, another car hit the car, but they were perfectly all right. There was no hospital treatment. The car wasn't particularly badly damaged. It was just a scratch. But it came at the time that the Nadi had said, and actually came as the woman was talking about it. So what had happened there? Destiny had put a car accident that was going to happen to them in the way. That's something a psychic could see. But that woman had done what we call the remedies. She had done some certain things to try to negate that negative karma, to break the negative karma that was going to cause that thing. So therefore, there's no free will in that the car accident was going to happen anyway. But there is free will in that we were able to turn a terrible thing that would have put them in hospital into a minor scrape. So in my opinion, yes, it's the answer's twice. It's double, isn't it? It's incongruous, because yes, we can't change the future, and yes, we can change the future, because we can change the quality of it as it comes. So certain things are going to come into our life, whether we like it or not.
Deal with it. How
we deal with it is important. Our spiritual attitude is very important, because that's where remedies come in, because they put you into the right spiritual attitude of a spiritual thing. And if we can see our life without material attachment and try to see our life more as a spiritual unfolding, then we tend to become free of harm. Then we tend to break away from all negative things that come into our life if we can set our feet on the higher path. Would you agree with that, Jane? Yeah. Add anything?
No, there's another one coming up now. I'm not doing anything.
Are phobias you have due to past life experiences?
I believe they are. I mean, some people have fear of snakes. Some people have fear of spiders. Some people have fear of closed spaces and that. And that is definitely past lives. And fear is in our subconscious mind. And it must have been something that's happened from a past memory in this life. It's like some people can't walk in the woods if they see a little spider, you know, and there might be something that they've had nightmares about. So, yeah, you've got to try and conquer your fears. Not so easy. Not so easy, is it?
I expect we also do have natural fears. I mean, we would all naturally have an innate fear of spiders and innate fear of tigers and anything that might harm us, and poisons and dangerous places, dark places, also fearful because you're invulnerable in long way back. So we have those ancient unconscious memories. But I think when they unfold in a strong way in someone's life, It's connected with past lives, like a fear of fire some people have, and then they go through hypnotic regression and they've been burnt in their past life and things. Who knows what terrible things we would have gone through in previous lives. We must have, how many times have we died, and how many scars does that leave on our consciousness? How many people have we had to leave behind? How many times have we suffered defeats? How many times have we had great successes? All those things are there in the background somewhere that must have, that they call them, they're like memories that are still there, but without any energy left to them. But sometimes the energy's still resonant in it. So it still occurs in a person's life, and we can't get rid of that as we pass across the river of forgetting. Do you think?
Yes. Let's see the next one. Who's this? Oh.
Farts Rainbows. I do like your username. Oh. Your mother must have loved you to give you a name like that. Anyway, how can I calm down intense vibrations while meditating?
Go on, you're quite good at that subject. Okay,
all right. So when we go into meditation, every time we approach meditation, it's always going to be different. Sometimes you're going to go into meditation and you'll just drop straight into it and you'll be perfectly 100%. Next day, you might go in and your mind might be running all over the place. And really, it doesn't seem like anything's changed, but you just seem to, for some reason, have a very active mind. Same when you go to sleep, isn't it?
You've got to be at peace.
So if the mind is active, the thing to do the problem is it's our engagement with the mind. First thing we have to do is accept that the mind is active and don't bother about it. It's active. That just happens to be the state of my mind at the moment, And sometimes when you first start meditating, you think your mind's going faster because you're becoming more aware of the speed your brain is naturally going all the time anyway. It's just your natural state. You're not hectic. You're just aware that that's your natural state. But just the observing of the mind takes the energy out of its momentum because you're not following it through all the time. If you step back and are looking at it, you're not feeding it with the energy to make that momentum speed up. So if you want your mind to calm down, pure observation of the mind will calm the mind down. But that can be quite difficult for most people to do. So another technique, and this was often utilized by the Buddha, would suggest this technique. He would suggest to watch the breath. And this is also in the Sanskrit text as well, simply to watch the breath, because the act of watching slows the mind down or lets the mind come to its natural still state, because behind the hecticness, there is the peace. And the breath and the brain and the activities of the mind are very connected. So if the brain's hectic, the breathing goes fast. Balance. So if we move our mind back and we just watch, we get, like Jane says, balance, which naturally falls into our natural state, which is absolute peace. So that's who we are underneath it all. And that's the simplest way I can explain that.
Nirvana.
Well, actually, you realize you're in it. Yeah.
Realization.
Yeah.
What's this one?
It's my birthday, Betty.
Happy birthday, Betty.
That's a nice one.
A good day for Betty. Betty Freddy. That's nice. Happy birthday. And
don't forget to keep your questions coming, guys. And if you're enjoying this channel, don't forget to comment. Because if you put your comments below after we've gone live too, it's always useful because we can come back and sometimes we answer them. Other people answer each other's comments. And we do pick up on things for future videos we make. So suddenly someone might write a comment in there and think, oh, good, Grace actually answered done the topic that interests us. And if you really enjoy this channel, do try to help us by becoming a patron, please, because if you become a patron of the site, all the little bits of money that people give in to help us move this forward are helping us to buy new kit, helping us to get a place together to do the broadcasts from, which is coming soon, help us ultimately to get to a spiritual center, and also helping us with our charitable work as well. So thank you for all of you who are patrons. Yeah. So yeah. Do you want me to read it?
Yes.
Okay, so do dreams with others mean they are thinking or dreaming of you too? Or is this only our own experience without their conscious or unconscious awareness?
Well, sometimes you do dream of others and dreams got meaning, something, subconscious mind. Or sometimes the person might be thinking of you and dreaming of you too. There's a very strong telepathic link, would you say?
Yeah, or is perhaps this is the question you're asking here. Do we meet in our dreams? I think that's what the question is, really. I mean, if you dream of someone else and they dream of you,
Nothing's impossible.
could you be meeting in dreams? I did set up some interesting experiments, and we actually, when we start going from the studio, I'm going to set some of these type of experiments up again with people out there, where I used to set things up with the members of my circle and say, I want you all to dream, to tell yourself you're going to have a dream that we're going to meet here at the circle tonight. Okay. And I'm going to leave something in the middle of the room here after we've all gone. And I want you to be able to tell us what is left there in the middle of the room. Right. And, or a note or a picture or pin something up, you know, and time again, we'd all go away. Next week, we come back and people would have pretty much the right answer of what was either drawn on a piece of paper or left in the room, like a teddy bear, and they saw cuddly toys and things like that. Something like that would have been left in the room and they'd sit. So we were basically meeting in our dreams, you see. So for me, that was kind of proof that we could meet, maybe at different time zones as well. We might not have all been there at the same time, but we certainly were able to come to that point in a dream, which would have been, I suppose, astral travel. But if we can meet in a place in a dream, why can't we meet person to person in a dream? Sometimes it will be fantasy, you know, because people dream of each other, don't they? You dream of that they represented people in your dreams. I mean, when you lose someone and there's a death, for example, sometimes people have horrible dreams about the people that they've lost. You know, people they really love appear in horrible forms because their mind is still coping with the grief. And that's a symbolic dream. But then sometimes, maybe years later, the person will appear in the dream and they know for certain that they've met that person, that was a real connection, you know, and they might, the spirit person in the dream might even say something that proves to be true that you couldn't possibly know, to give proof that it's them.
Right. Is there any more?
So yes to that, basically. So I'll read it then. What about crop circles? Who does that? Spirit say anything on that?
Ask the drones.
Well, we went to see one, didn't we? Which is fantastic. I mean, you'll have to have a look on the on the website now, because we've got those crop circle videos we did on the website at psychics.co.uk. So go and have a look at the website. We've got a whole discussion there with Domenico, who's in the background at the moment, putting up the questions for us and doing the production. Yeah, crop circles. I think what do you think about crop circles, Jay?
Well, I think some are man-made, and I think some with the vortex of the wind, and I think some of them are symbolisms, and I believe there are other life forces that make them.
So you believe all of it?
No, I don't believe all of it. You can't be a doubting Thomas. You can't say and knock everything out to the equation and say they're not true. It depends. You
see, obviously people can fake it. I mean, people walk around with boards on their feet and walk around in a circle holding a piece of rope, and you can make a circle easy. And it's the same with physical mediumship. People did fake that. But that doesn't mean to say that there's no such thing as physical mediumship. Just because some people can fake it, just because a magician can fake mediumship, doesn't mean mediumship's not real.
That's right.
And it's the same possibly with crop circles. Okay, I'm sure there's plenty of ones out there that are not real. But I don't know for certain. I have no idea, really. But I mean, I'm certainly open to the idea that these things can happen. You know, the problem is once people start mimicking and start messing around, it spoils the whole thing, because then the reality of it gets lost.
And I don't think the spirit world would be interested in crop circles, quite frankly.
I think it's a bit of a clumsy way to communicate, but they may be a natural form of earth energy. That's what I would think.
Vortex energy.
Yeah, and I think the cases are probably massively, massively rare. A few times in a century, and if that has happened, then you know it wouldn't be happening just every conveniently every time the corn comes out. I don't think they're messages from aliens, but you know, I mean, it's still quite interesting. And we went to see one, and I thought it was fantastic. And it you know, there's an energy of excitement when you go to see it, because you know, the very act of going to see it was quite an exciting thing, you know. So yeah, who knows? I certainly believe in earth energy. Yeah, might be completely wrong. Maybe they are communications. How can we answer the question? You can't, can you? Not without some form of proof.
Right.
Do people who commit suicide have a different experience on the other side of life?
Well, I don't feel they go to hell. I think that's just the Catholic Church saying that. It's good for business. But, well, it is. It's true.
Yeah.
But no, I don't feel they're going on like the Day of Judgment. I feel that you've got to understand people that have committed suicide and gone through a lot of sadness. There are people that come for them to take them over, and they're still loved in that. And it is sad. And it's like if it's somebody's time to go and they use their own free will, nothing can stop it. Or sometimes people get saved before they try to commit suicide. But no, they're not going right down to the depths of the earth and where the devil lays.
Well, don't you think, isn't it absolutely bloody cruel of the Catholic Church and on the rest of them?
Well, they even got shops, by the Vatican buying things.
Yeah, but isn't it
things.
cruel that some mothers lost their son to a suicide, and that person's committed suicide probably because life has been so bad for them.
Financial difficulties.
And then you put salt in the wound and pour oil on it, petrol on it, on the pain, to say that the person's gone to purgatory or hell. Dreadful. I mean, and the eternal banishment because of what they've done. Okay, it might put people off committing suicide, the thought of that, but what terrible way of doing it. No, when a person goes to the spirit world and they've taken their own life, they're helped. They are helped on the spirit side. I've had proof of this.
A spiritual hospital, but not like a hospital here. So they had to be in recovery.
Yeah, I've had proof of it, particularly since I've had friends that have committed suicide. One that I've mentioned in my books before, he poured petrol all over himself and lit a match and went up like a human torch and lived for 2 weeks afterwards, but he couldn't speak and nobody knew who he was. It was even on the mainstream news. And so he died in absolute agony. And he came through a medium to me who knew nothing about me. And the medium was, I'm hot, I'm on fire. He's gone, I'm hot, I'm fire. And he described him perfectly, described his character, even gave his name. And then the message was that he's all right. He's safe over there, that he's being looked after, that he's been in what he called the halls of healing, which is a kind of a spiritualist concept. But so they're helped. Now, if a person's committed to taking their own life like that, it doesn't mean the problems have gone away, because they will have to work that karma out, partly in the spirit world, but partly in the next life. So if you refuse to confront a problem and you run away from it, and you take that way out, it don't go away. It don't solve the problem. But they aren't punished.
I know a case,
and they are helped.
I know a case where this lady had come in from work, and she a very nice lady. She'd been in a motorbike accident in the past and had pins in her legs. And she found her husband hanging himself in the bathroom. And if somebody hangs herself, the body's shaking. And then she managed to get him down, but it was too late. And he had, in his life, had a very religious upbringing, that he felt guilty marrying somebody that wasn't of that religion. I won't say what religion it was. And, and it was so sad because they were both nice people, and that he didn't have financial difficulties or anything. He just couldn't cope with things, what happened to his childhood. So I feel you've got to have compassion when people come back from suicides. And sometimes... And it might take a lot of courage for somebody to commit suicide if they've gone through a lot of pain. Say if somebody's got cancer and can't bear it. They're not selfish people. These are people that have had a lot of suffering and can't cope and everything. And when they are taken over on the other side, they have people that are connected with them that help them, because they're in shock as well. And sometimes people don't leave letters or notes. They just do it, if you like, so quickly that they haven't got time. They don't think properly, and that but the ones that are suffering, the ones that are left behind. Yeah,
it does cause terrible pain for those that are left behind, because we see so many people that have come to us over the years who are
Children,
coming because people have committed suicide.
children
I'm
have been
sure
bullied.
nobody would do it if they knew.
Children being bullied and university
You've got to put
students.
something like this in context, you see, because the Catholic Church there will say, you know, you will go to hell if you commit suicide. But you think of the different reasons that a person might commit suicide, just like Jane's been saying there, because, you know, there's so many mitigating circumstances. I mean, if a person has to go to Switzerland in dignitas and take their own life, that's probably quite a good idea in some ways. I mean, I would consider that if I was dying in the same way my dad died with bone cancer. I think I'd rather be taken out quickly. And would that be a wrong thing to do? I might still have the karma to carry of the unresolved karma that might have been being burnt on that deathbed experience. But then maybe that's what one needed to do anyway. Maybe that was the concluding of it that could be concluded quickly. There's so many moral and spiritual questions associated with the idea of suicide. But to say that a person goes through any form of punishment or any form of being lost on the spirit side, I mean, they don't wander the world like a ghost or anything like that. That some people think they don't cross. They don't cross over.
The two worlds,
no, they're helped because just as there's people here that help, so too in the spirit world, even more so, because there's most people there on a higher spiritual level. Hi there, the full Monty.
The full Monty.
We're not lucky we don't have, with a name like that, lucky we don't have the video links with you guys.
Oh, don't be shy.
Do you have any techniques for recalling, remembering details of a recent dream with a loved one who has passed?
We usually write things down in a book, a dream book.
Yeah, I think if you write things down, that's the best way to remember dreams. We've been through these before.
And date it.
And write down everything you can possibly think. I mean, don't try to get it all in a sequence because you'll find yourself getting a bit lost. If you can kind of, I use a loose form of mind map. So I scribble something down, put a circle around it, put another bit down, put a circle around it. And who was in there? My granddad was in there. Then my man was in there. And what did he have? He had a stick and he did this and they were doing this. And so you get as much facts down as you can and try to write down the things that were spoken to you first, because they're the things that fade quickest when you wake up. You'll tend to retain the visual memories of a dream, but you'll lose the auditory stuff quicker. So anything to do with words, anything that's working on the logical mind, that goes first. So if someone said something to you in a dream, write it down and then try to get the details and then go back and keep rethinking around it, and you'll find other bits will come back as well.
Or you can even record it, your dreams, if you can record it on tape and then listen to it at a later stage.
Yeah, because we can do that nowadays on your phone, can't you? You can just record. But I find writing sometimes, for me, it feels more natural to do that than try to speak it.
Everyone's different.
But everyone's different, yeah. But yeah, the act of recalling. But if you're going to write it down, if you put a dream diary next to your bed with a pen, that will stimulate a dream anyway. Not necessarily a dream about someone in the spirit world, which is your question was about, but it will stimulate the act of dreaming, because it's like almost an affirmation that will trigger with the unconscious mind. So we're coming to the end now, folks, soon. So this is the last questions coming up. So don't forget, we want you to like and share this video, because if you do that and you share it on Facebook particular, that will help us to get the channel out so people know all about it, and more subscribers. If you all like to subscribe, if you're here for the first time, subscribe, because this week we've had a lot of videos going out. We've had things like my prediction one just went out today. There's also coming up some other ones with just Jane and I doing funny stuff and things like that. Plus we have some more structured videos as well, and some little shorts. Some
super stars coming on.
And we've got some great people coming up soon too. We've got some of them can't come on yet because they're in Hollywood and they haven't had their hair cut.
Yeah.
And they say, I can't come on without my hair done because I look like the wild man of Borneo. I look like a wild woman, you know. So
and we'll have people like Melinda Messenger.
We haven't asked her yet.
Well, she will. And Eric Robinson, he will. And Liza.
I haven't asked him yet. We can only announce people that we're going to come in. But we've got quite a few friends around who are very open to spiritual things. We'll have some great ones, people coming online, hopefully, who will talk with us. So Brandon Hill, this is the last question now, I think. When you do your predictions, how do you experience it? How do you know it is not just your imagination?
Well, I think that's quite easy to answer because those things happen when you make predictions. So it wouldn't be your imagination, would it?
Well, that's true. By their fruits that you shall know them. It's only, you see, you don't know if it's your imagination. I mean, it's the same thing when you're doing a spirit contact for someone. You think, this must be my imagination. But then you find yourself stood on a platform or on a stage saying something that you think looks like your imagination. You think, God, that must be my imagination. And someone will take every single bit of it. So you'll stand up and you'll give a first name, a surname, you'll give some unusual details and
like sometimes
weird
say,
stuff.
Can you tell me what my grandson's favourite colour is that's passed? You know, they're putting real sort of pressure on you. And suddenly in your mind, you'll see like the colour yellow. And you say, yes, that's right.
Or much more specific than that, actually, because sometimes people leave messages and, you know, that this is our key message, you know, so I'll prove it's me. That one that said with like the brasso, wasn't it? The person, and the first thing you said to the person that came through the door, brasso. I've got to say brasso to you. Why do I have to say brasso? That's not how you greet a person normally at the door, is it? And that was the key thing that they said that's how
somebody you didn't let me finish about the yellow one. They said, what was my grandson, who was about 3, buried in? And I saw a dinosaur outfit. That's correct. I mean, that can't possibly be your imagination, can it?
So that's how it works with mediumship. And it's exactly the same with predictions. Now, the only problem with predictions is because the problem is there is information already in my brain, on anybody's doing a predictions brain, of stuff we've seen. So we've seen stuff on TV. We have read stuff and things like that.
It's no good.
So you've got to push that out the way somehow
predictions
to get to the truth.
No good people saying after an event, oh, I saw that happening to the Twin Towers. The best thing is to make that statement before something happens and date it,
of course,
and prove it. A lot of people don't. A lot of them say it afterwards.
Yeah, and they go back and change the dates.
Yes.
So it's a sticky topic, predictions, because, you know, anybody can make a prediction based upon the likelihood of things happening, and that's the problem. And, you know, that's why I prefer to do predictions. Really, people push me for predictions all the time because they're popular. But I used to always say I'll only do them once a year. I do them just in October, and then for the next year. And if they come, they come. They don't, they don't. And don't keep making them, because if you're making a whole year ahead, there's nothing in your brain that can be influencing what you think might happen. You know,
I made a load of predictions, and they put them in the Bank of England, and every single one came up. I was against journalists.
Yeah, that was a test we did on the TV where they took our predictions, locked them up in a vault, and then when the actual predictions, and then they opened the vault. It was all good for TV. Opened the vault and took it all out and compared our predictions to the journalists' predictions, and we won hands down. I'm pleased to say we beat them on lots and lots of things. Watching you from Maine. Hi there, Shat. Okay, Maine's in USA. Yeah. Thank you, says Agility. Thank you. I've seen that one before because I've seen your dog picture. Sunshine. So thank you both. I thank you everybody for joining us again. It's really kind of you. And I'm so pleased. It's so nice comments you all seem to make on about us, and it's really nice, you know. So thanks for sharing it like this, and thanks for telling each other and telling other people and sharing these videos with your friends.
It's nice to connect in these difficult times.
Yeah, and thanks all following us too, because it's been an interesting year, this one, hasn't it? And it's nice when spiritual people can get together.
Who's
CB? CB, we don't know. You ought to put your full usernames and faces. It would be so much more interesting. Yeah. Well, thank you, guys.
Cannabis plant.
So those of you joining us, don't forget now to become a patron if you really want to get behind the scenes too. Because if you become a patron, you know, you've got access behind the scenes to chat to us, and you can you'll get other little videos and things like that. But you know, the objective is really just to join and help move this whole thing forward. Really, it's not a thing we're selling to you, it's something you're helping us, which we're really grateful for those of you who have that altruistic mentality. It's been really good.
Nice,
and you've been psychic workbook. Well, that's going back when you were 10. Yeah, dates me a bit, doesn't it?
When we've done the big breakfast.
Yeah, we were 1998. That must have been. I'm in Southampton. Visited you a few times, Jane.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's a dog that's came to see you. You can see from the picture.
Hi.
From Australia. God, you're up in the strange time of day. Yeah, thanks for the live stream. Yeah, the live streams are good, I think.
Cousin.
I hope you all like these. Ah, yes, Sally Halfpenny. We know who Sally
You
Halfpenny
get everywhere,
is.
Sally.
Yeah, get
everywhere.
your face on there. Yeah.
You have a nice weekend
Yeah.
too.
So anyway, thank you very much for joining us again tonight. So we're going to say bye now. So thanks, everybody. Bye for now.
Keep
safe. Indigo had a heck